Hi everybody, it's Lainey, and today I'm doing a non-spoiler book review. The non-spoiler book review today is going to be on 1,000 Pieces of You by Claudia Gray. I read this book for our Carpe Librum book pick of the month for January. Picked it up in the middle of January, finished it within 3 days. I loved this book, you guys. It was a 5 out of 5. So a quick synopsis of this book is we follow Marguerite, who is the 17-year-old daughter of two physicist parents. Her parents have managed to unlock the secrets of interdimensional travel through a little device that they created. But one of their research assistants kills her father, takes the device, and leaps off into the next dimension. You follow Marguerite and another research assistant, Theo, as they chase Paul, who is the research assistant that killed her father, off into other dimensions. They have to chase him and try to find him, and they want to kill him. That is a quick synopsis, and I'm not going to reveal any more because you can't without ruining the whole book. I just ate while my battery recharged, so I have no idea what I was talking about. When I first started it, there's a lot of sciencey things that are thrown at you, and if you're like me, when deep scientific definitions get thrown at you, and my brain is like, was I confused a little bit when science descriptions were being told to me? Yes, I kind of was, but it didn't distract me or confuse me a whole lot, because the book does a really good job at really explaining to people like me who are really dumb when it comes to science what is going on with dimensional travel. In the first 30 pages, you are pretty much thrown into a different dimension, and you are trying to catch your bearings, and you're trying to figure out what's going on and who are these characters and whatnot. So the first 30 pages are a little bit of a jumble. But for me, after I got through those first 30 pages, I was hooked. I couldn't stop reading. All three of our characters, Marguerite, Theo, and Paul, are very, very interesting characters that I really, really loved getting to know throughout the entire book. Our one constant is Marguerite, because we are in her head. It is told in first person, so as you're traveling to different dimensions, for her, she's still her, but the Marguerite she is transporting herself into is slightly different than our home base Marguerite. I really liked the rules of the interdimensional travel, where the idea of dimensions are infinite, and you can only travel to dimensions where you would exist. So if I could transport into another dimension, it would be me where my mom is still my mom and my dad is still my dad. The whole aspect of genes and biology are still very strong in this book. I really liked that idea where you can't change how you came to be. You can't change that. It is what it is. It's just traveling into different versions of yourself. Really, really loved that aspect of it. While I was reading it, I was thinking of, I was fantasizing about what kind of different versions of myself would I try to see. Where would I be in a different dimension? What would I be like? Would I be more successful or more unsuccessful? This book makes you think, and that's what I loved about it. Another great thing about this book was the pacing. The pacing is very spot on. Like, you read it through it so quickly because you're so engrossed with what's happening and what could happen. It's very visual. I could visually see everything that was being described to me. This is one of the few books I would describe as a movie. There are not a lot of books that I describe as movies where I can visually see everything like I was watching a movie. And this is definitely one of those books where I felt like I was in a movie and I was reading/watching it. The dimensions we spend the most time in are so vastly different from each other that you don't want to leave them, and when you do, you feel sad. You spend a lot of time in Imperial Russia, where what would have happened if the Romanovs weren't killed off by the Bolsheviks back in the early 1900s. I love the Romanovs and that whole history, and to be thrown into that dimension where the Romanovs weren't killed was really interesting to see how that would have played out. There was a lot I absolutely loved about the Russia setting. Another place that you are thrown into is futuristic London, and it was so visual. Even though Claudia Gray was explaining things that do not exist in this world, it was so easy for me to picture these fictional pieces of technology. Another great thing about this book, and I love this about books, is the mystery, and everything is not how it seems, and this book is the perfect example of that. Everything you think you might know about the characters and about the story, it's not. Everything is not as it seems. I did mention Marguerite a little bit earlier, but I wanted to say I think she's a great heroine, and I'm very, very interested into seeing how she develops in the future of the series. I think she's a great character, and she didn't annoy me once, and sometimes that's very hard for YA female heroines to not annoy someone. I really loved her story, and her personality was great, and her determination and her motivation and everything that contributed to her character. As strong as she was also flawed, and I love that about characters where they can't be perfect, and Marguerite is far from perfect. The two boys that are mainly in the story is Theo and Paul. They're both research assistants to her parents. And Paul you're supposed to hate because he killed her father, but those are tested when she leaps into different dimensions and finds different versions of Paul who's not the same Paul that killed her father. You think you'd be confused by all these versions of these different characters, but it's just so natural that you're never confused about who's who. Another thing I wanted to mention were her parents. Her parents are by far my favorite parental figures in YA history. You really get to love them and know them in the different dimensions. Usually I don't like when parents have a focal point in YA stories, but you will fall in love with her parents. You will fall in love with them, and you're going to feel a heartbreak, and you're going to feel the joy of everything that has to do with her parents' love story, which is just as important as the story itself. And I loved that about it because I loved her parents, and I just wanted them to be my parents. So I think that's all I wanted to talk about for this book. I definitely recommend it for anybody. This is the first time I ever read a story about dimensional travel, and I will say maybe I would have been a little bit more confused about dimensions if I hadn't seen the Family Guy episode of Road to the Multiverse so many times when Stewie and Brian would travel to different dimensions themselves. But I just loved it. I can't wait till the next one. If you guys have read this story, let me know. I want to know what you guys think of the story. That is it for me. I hope you guys have a really great day, and I will see you guys very soon. Bye!